It is Sunday, the 21st of December, 2014, winter solstice. I'm in front of the Unitarian Church of Montreal in my alternative spiritual practice of protesting against Unitarian Universalist injustices, abuses, and hypocrisy. And lately, we have been putting the emphasis on this, the fact that the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations had the unmitigated gall to falsely accuse me of the crime of blasphemous libel in Bill Cosby-style legal bullying in an effort to cover up and deny the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are in fact guilty of engaging in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. And those two last phrases are lifted from the arrogant and aggressive cease and desist demand letters that I was served with, courtesy of Stikeman Elliott Barristers and Solicitors litigation lawyer, Maitre Marc-André Coulombe. He, amongst other highly questionable and even foolish accusations, accused me of making, and this is an exact quote from the letter, unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and then went on to say that such allegedly unfounded and vicious allegations were defamatory, and that they were so defamatory that they constitute the crime of blasphemous libel against the Unitarian Universalist religious community. So I didn't even know Canada had a blasphemy law when I received this cease and desist demand letter, so I did some cursory initial research to see what that was all about, and discovered that yes, indeed, we do have a blasphemy law, and that it does prohibit making libelous statements against a religious community, basically attacking their most deeply held religious beliefs and so on. So in any case, I knew that the few allegations that I'd actually posted about Unitarian Universalists engaging in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape were by no means unfounded, that they were very well founded, in fact. So I wrote back to Maitre Coulombe, and I said to him, I'm sorry, Maitre Coulombe, but I'm having considerable difficulty finding blog posts that match your description of unfounded vicious allegations, the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. Could you please provide me with a blog post titles or a URL or something to help me find these allegedly unfounded vicious allegations? And instead of providing me with the titles or URLs or whatever of the allegedly unfounded vicious blog posts, Maitre Coulombe wrote back to me in a very testy, arrogant manner and essentially said that, my claims not to be able to find blog posts matching his description were not credible, and that I should go and find them myself, kind of thing. Like, you know damn well where they are, you go find them. That's essentially what he said. But he essentially called me a liar, said that, I was not being truthful and saying that I couldn't find any unfounded vicious allegations, yada, yada, yada. So I had to write back to Maitre Coulombe and say, well, I don't think you quite understand. I know where I've written about Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists who've been convicted and sent to jail. I just don't know where there are any unfounded allegations. So you better tell me where the unfounded ones are, because I don't know about any. I only know about allegations that are well-founded in fact, and you can actually go and read the same information in newspapers if you know where to look. Well, I never heard from Maitre Coulombe again. in spite of repeatedly reminding him that I expect him to formally withdraw that false accusation and apologize for it. To say nothing of making the same demand of the UUA leaders who are responsible for falsely accusing me of the archaic crime of blasphemous libel in Bill Cosby-style legal bullying that's obviously intended to conceal from public view the fact that certain Unitarian Universalist ministers are in fact guilty of such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape. So here we are, more than 2.5 years later, protesting, amongst other things, the fact that not only has the Unitarian Universalist Association had the unmitigated gall to try and misuse Canada's archaic blasphemy law to intimidate me into removing blog posts that tell the truth about certain Unitarian Universalist pedophiles and rapists, but they haven't had the moral courage, they haven't dredged up the moral courage to admit they made a huge mistake, apologize, and try to make things right. No, 2.5 years later, the Unitarian Universalist Association has yet to formally withdraw the accusation of blasphemous libel against me, formally withdraw its false accusation that I'm making unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape, and properly and publicly apologize to me and indeed to the Unitarian Universalist religious community for this shameful attempted misuse of Canadian blasphemy law to cover up and deny Unitarian Universalist clergy abuse. And that those picket signs, they're actually quite recent. I only made these in the last month or so. Prior to that, I had no picket signs that specifically addressed that particular Unitarian Universalist injustice. I did make chalk slogans as a temporary measure. But I figured, more than 2 years after the accusation, they still haven't withdrawn it. I think I'll make a couple of picket signs that address that. So here we are today with a picket sign that says, Unitarian Universalist misuse Canada's blasphemy law to cover up and deny pedophilia and rape, because it happens to be, unfortunately, true. And we, of course, have other picket sign slogans that speak about other Unitarian Universalist injustices and abuses. Unitarian bullying and bigotry, suck you asterisk you. And when I say bullying, I mean bullying in various types of bullying. In fact, the Unitarian Universalists seem to cover most of the bases of bullying, because besides verbal and psychological bullying, there's a certain amount of physical bullying. I won't say there's a great deal, but I have been physically assaulted by Unitarian Universalists on occasion. So there's some physical bullying. There's a lot of verbal and psychological bullying. There's also legal bullying, as I've already spoken about, the false blasphemous libel accusation against me, which is by no means the only legal bullying that the Unitarian Universalists are guilty of. In fact, in the year 2000, just over 14 years ago, I was protesting in front of the church here when I was arrested on criminal charges for allegedly disrupting the order and solemnity of religious services at the Unitarian Church of Montreal. There's a law in the Canadian Criminal Code that prohibits the disruption of religious services, and I believe it carries a 2-year jail term. In any case, Montreal Unitarians, in one of their misguided efforts to force an end to this protest, had me, charged and arrested, or arrested and charged, depending on which order you want to put it in, with this law. I was acquitted 3 years later when the Crown prosecutor couldn't prove a single one of the 4 or 5 points of law that he had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to obtain a conviction. Even before going to trial, I did try to persuade the Crown prosecutor to drop the charges since they were unfounded, to borrow a phrase from Maître Marc-André Coulomb. I made it clear to the Crown prosecutor that I was outside the church, wasn't making a great deal of noise, almost certainly could not be heard inside the church, almost certainly could not be seen inside the church, so how could I possibly be disrupting church services? But he said he had witnesses, and we were going to trial, and we did. And we had quite an enjoyable trial where I was able to personally cross-examine the church's prosecution witnesses, specifically Val Bourdon and Jeremy Searle. And amongst other questions I asked, there really were only 3 basic questions I needed to ask to be acquitted. One was, can you hear me from inside the church? And I believe they both honestly answered that they couldn't hear me, which was the correct answer to provide. So then I asked, can you see me from inside the church? And Val Bourdon said that he could see me from inside the church. I said, how? Because see, I know that you got these windows here, slit windows, one of which is blocked completely by a memorial to the 2 firemen that were killed when the church's organist burned down the previous building. And then we got this one, which you could theoretically perhaps see the top of my head. And then those up there, which you can't really see me. So Val Bourdon said, oh, well, people are staring at you from the lobby windows. Well, yes, we do have some lobby windows here. A little sort of atrium type thing. And yes, people do stare at me.